Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Outlander Season 6 on Starz. And I have issues with this season. Now granted, it mainly accelerates at the end of the season because for some reason they're like, hey, let's cut some shit out. And then See, my biggest issue with it is how it ends, because it literally ends pretty much on what I would term as, like, next episode on Dragon Ball Z, instead of, like, the usual kind of cliffhanger teaser kind of thing. We are literally still in the middle of shit that's kind of going on. Like, there had to have been a better kind of spot to be like, hey, motherfuckers, let's kind of end this at a kind of better kind of placement here. It's very odd that they ended it how they were doing it. Now granted, I understand that we still had the pandemic going on and everything, and that's gotten us into certain kind of issues. However, we have gone to a reduced episode count. We are now down to 8 episodes, and it vastly shows what's kind of going on here and really starts affecting stories and quality. Like, even though there's things that could have been taken out, and even though I was mainly reading the summaries, which, by the way, the summaries somehow became a condensed, concentrated version of the issues that I had with the actual books to a certain extent, whereas they would only give me certain kind of information that I'm like, why is this here? And then, like, do big parts of passages that I'm like, what? Like, it explaining stuff about Fergus and why he is so affected with the birth of his one son, Henry Christian, who has dwarfism. It's like, okay, I really didn't get that from the book. Like, they just blurbed it and would, like, do a whole kind of passage on something kind of else. And I'm like, you fuckers. So, that trying to juggle all this stuff together, because the main kind of plots are, we've got a new Ardsmere prisoner who pops up, who creates tension and turmoil within Fraser's Ridge. We have Claire still dealing with her rape and everything from Lionel Brown. We've got Jamie trying to juggle being an Indian agent for a little bit, and then getting ready to pretty much rebel up for the American Revolution. We've got Fergus doing his stuff and dealing with his kid, and it just becomes too much, especially to be juggled as effectively within this 8-episode season. Now, I still had enjoyment, still kind of seeing what's kind of going on, how these characters react to these situations, what kind of goes on, but it comes down to 8 episodes is not enough. We've got all this juggling going on, and we're not juggling them effectively. Claire's whole kind of resolution, because for some reason her coping mechanism was getting addicted to ether and pretty much like gassing herself every time she started like seeing Lionel Brown and everything like that, which I don't mind them exploring that, but it's just become something that they kind of like did until we pretty much had to get to a resolution point to fucking like get rid of it, because it would start impeding the overarching plot of the American Revolution happening, rather than having any kind of true movement on it. And the thing is, I didn't really see this kind of brought up that much within the summary, which I'm like, okay, you'd think that'd be a pretty big kind of fucking thing to kind of like bring up there, but whatever. And other stuff, like Claire does have other stories and other involvements throughout this season as well, but that's her main big one, where it's like, oh, alright. Now seeing her pretty much get and utilizing the ether, testing it on people, showcasing it to Malva, Tom Christie's daughter, and having her brought in pretty much as an apprentice was a very interesting kind of thing, even though Malva is a shitty character. Like, it would have been more interesting to dive deeper into her if they had actually put some more focus onto her. The actress did a very good job of selling the unsettling nature of what's kind of going on with her. Oh, we also have Roger trying to figure out what the fuck's kind of going on, as well as Brianna. However, even though they're kind of main anchor people, they get so pushed to the wayside, it's kind of funny. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? Lordy. Oh, and then they eventually do go back to the future because they have... Is that in this one? Timeline-wise, it starts getting really kind of fucking nutty of when they go to the future and when they don't. Oh, that's in the next season. So it's like, And Malva is the daughter of Tom Christie, the Ardsmere prisoner. I did kind of like that we got a little bit of backstory seeing him in Ardsmere, understanding how he's pretty much a religious zealot. However, they kind of, I don't say tone it down, but they kind of like play the plot card on it where it's kind of like convenient to kind of bring it up. But that's also down to pacing and how many episodes we've got. So it's like, you don't really get that much into it of why he believes what he believes religion-wise. Jamie, you pretty much have the understanding of the Catholicism and all that, even though it's not as deep-dived as it could be. But you get the kind of understanding here. Tom Christie, not so much. It's more focused on pretty much getting the main basic plots of him having difficulties with Jamie and conflicts, pretty much being jealous of him, his hand giving him shit, while Claire then pretty much heals him that, does an operation on him and all that. Him being an asshole. The main impetus for his operation is to pretty much keep abusing Malva, and then, oh my god, it's CW level kind of shit as we get this whole thing of like, Jamie Fraser's the father of my baby, and putting that into the whole Fraser's Ridge shit. It just, again, we don't really have enough episodes for this, and everything has to be accelerated to like, everybody is like, oh god, what the fuck is up with this dude? Why doesn't he take responsibility? And then, of course, Malva pretty much gets ganked, and Claire tries to save the child, but is unable to. And then it's like, she killed Malva and tried to do weird witchy shit with her baby's corpse kind of shit. It's like, oh, God. And then we don't even get the resolution of what kind of goes on with that until the next season. Granted, I have finished 6 and 7, part 1. I'll get to that when I do that review. I'm splitting them up here, but I have gotten to that. It's just, I don't know why they didn't have a kind of better stopping point for what's kind of going on here. So, they're dealing with all this crazy-ass bullshit. We see things kind of popping up with the Cherokee. We get Ian kind of helping out there, him getting kind of, he's usually more kind of B-plotted. I mean, he gets the understanding of the time traveling and stuff like that. He, I think that's in this season. I kind of fused them together a little bit, so if there's a little bit of bleed over, I apologize. But we get more of what was kind of going on with him with the Mohawk. He has to deal with his ex-wife's new husband, which is the one kind of friend dude. It's all kind of messy. It's like, shit. Let's see. Oh god, there's really not that much. And Jamie trying to balance out what he's learned from Brianna and Claire, wanting to make sure that the Cherokee don't use the guns to pretty much take them and take them out. But the thing is, since they are in the history now, since Jamie's able to get the guns, we see pretty much towards the end of the season that they back his ass up when he needs it the most. when he's pretty much chasing and going to the because the big kind of climax is that Brown and his fucking safety watch shit decide to arrest Claire and pretty much are taking her to trial. However, he's saying that he wants a fair trial, but they're pretty much saying that she's a murderess and everything. And Tom Christie actually, even though his daughter's the one that was murdered, and we see that his son is acting really kind of weird and possessive over shit. Oh, and we also get a subplot about Roger pretty much helping this widow, and everybody being like, if you keep doing this, you're gonna be seen as like making moves on that widow. It's like, I don't give a shit. We only got 8 episodes. Oh god, it again. I don't mind it in theory, showcasing Roger having to balance out wanting to be a good minister and helping people, and not going overboard and like leaving his wife and his son to fucking all stupid shit, like being neglectful and all that. It's just they don't balance that shit effectively. So you're doing all this different kind of shit. We get Fergus wondering about the quality of his son's life because they essentially just like pushed him in the river, and it's like, Jesus. And Jermaine did it. They kind of need to explain more. Jermaine was like, if he kind of wanted them to do it to see that they wouldn't have anything going wrong. I liked how Jamie handled the situation. It's like, the kid's a demon. It's like, no, just touch him. You're going to be fine. It's like, you either touch the baby or you touch the poker. It's like, oh, it's a little baby. It's cute. Yeah. And then getting into Fergus, this whole thing of pretty much growing up and seeing how dwarves were treated in Parisian society and everything completely makes sense why he's pretty much spun the fuck out and gets drunk all the time and tries to kill himself. So that way, Marcelly could marry someone that he deems more worthy and be able to take care of his family and take care of Henry Christian. And Jamie helping him out was a good and important kind of bit. There are bits that I liked in here, and I'm like, good. I need to help him. Of course, he really blames himself for his son being born that way because he wasn't there to protect Milady and protect his wife from being like knocked the fuck out, and thinks that he's pretty much responsible for the conditions of everyone. And I wanted more exploration of that, except we've got only 8 episodes, and I know I keep harping on this point, but the thing is, these aren't as explored as in depth as they should be. Even though I like what they go on and do with Fergus and Claire and Tom Christie and seeing these fisher folk and trying to see shit that goes on at the Ridge and trying to see how this integrates into the American Revolution, the execution just goes fuck balls wild because they don't have the time and the pacing to do what they need to do. So certain things have to be deemed part of big plot, and certain things have to be completely and utterly cut and streamlined as much as possible, but still put in at enough decent kind of distance to make the episode have the required length of what's going on. It's like, fuck me. I want to see Jamie be this kind of layered person and deal with all these kind of issues within being that kind of system. Him having to deal with people being like, you got her pregnant. It's like, okay, can we have them attempt to actually do a trial for evidence and all this kind of shit? Do these kind of things? And I mean, you kind of see that kind of shit going on with Brown taking Claire to try and go for a trial. However, they're shouting that she's a murderess throughout every kind of thing and almost get fucking mobbed by a place. And it's like, yeah, you're technically protecting her, so that's why they've got an issue. And Tom Christie volunteering to pretty much go with them, because at first Jamie and Claire were together, but then they kind of pretty much separated them, but Christie stayed on top. Top of that, was able to still try and protect Claire, and it's like, what the fuck's kind of going on here? We get that more in season 7. But we see them pretty much ending, them having Claire pretty much put in prison, and Jamie, who was almost going to be sent back to Scotland, being rescued by Ian and Bird, the leader of the Cherokee, being like, we fight with you, man. Bear killer, we got this shit. And John Quincy and everything, and then they kind of ride off, and that's the end of the fucking season. That is my main kind of pet peeve of what's kind of going on here. There's a lot of cool stuff that needs to be integrated better within this season, that just... And you've got pretty decent actors and everything going on with it. Tom Christie's was an interesting kind of choice, and just playing off this kind of religious dude, maybe almost going into zealotry, trying to do right by his people, jealous of Jamie and what's kind of going on. It's like, Jamie's had to go through some shit to even try and get to this point, and it's like a kind of happy moment. It's like, you don't know what's been up to at this point to even get to this point. And then we got the whole Malva situation. It's like, oh, God, fuck me. And that pretty much overtakes it towards the back end. And Claire just trying to deal with and understand who she is, and having her kind of like break down with Jamie on it, being like, I don't know who I am anymore with this kind of shit. It's like, that's the stuff that I want to see when the actors are really diving into this, really getting into this. Let's see, have I hit most of the things? We also get a shot back of the Bonnie Prince Charles and this one lady that's helped him escape after the Rising, pretty much declaring for the Loyalists. We get John Gray and Jamie having shit going. Is that this season? It mainly comes to a head in the next one. But them having their kind of issues, Brianna kind of finally being able to see her brother, William, and those are interesting kind of stuff. John Gray really works out pretty well. William is interesting in the casting choice that they got for the older one. Now, granted, I didn't read for a complete description, so I really don't kind of have a problem here, though I would think that he'd need a little bit more red in his hair, potentially, to really get the whole Jamie's father kind of effect. But it was nice to kind of see that. Nice to pretty much see that Roger was going onto his kind of ministering thing, finding out that Jem was his because of the hereditary Nevis kind of thing. But it just really comes down to where this ended and how they were able to execute and intertwine everything. Sorry about that. Pardon me. Now, you've probably been into this show for a while, and the thing is, sometimes seasons just kind of pop off and like take out, and you're like, you know what, this is probably my jumping off point. However, with this one, you've got season 7, and I'm going to go into the issues I have with season 7 in that review, and then we've got season 8 that they're terming it, and that's going to be the end. Of course, we've also got the prequel that's propping out, based on Jamie's parents. This one I would definitely be like, you've got to really be an Uber fan and really be into it for a while to really get something out of this. Though, even though I'm not a complete Uber fan, I at least had enjoyment of going through with it with my mom and just shooting the shit with it, being like, what the fuck are you doing here? Why is this choice happening? What the fuck's going on? What's the difference between the deep part of the book versus the summary that I read, and I'm like, what the fuck's kind of going on here? So those are always kind of cool discussions, and of course making these reviews to kind of discuss it with other people as well. I understand the challenges of making these kind of shows. However, I am seeing a lot of issues that are similar to Game of Thrones. Except with Game of Thrones, there were still 2 books that needed to be made. This one, we just have 1 book to finish it out. And it could be out sooner rather than later, but I see that they just decided to go gung-ho with whatever they want to do. which is a kind of sad kind of state of affairs because there's a lot of different kind of things that were in even the summaries that I was reading that they could have like worked together a little bit more. Like McDonaldson. There was a big kind of part with him and the rebellion of Jamie getting into the rebellion more by fighting in a kind of battle where the rebels win. That is not here or in the next season. They just kind of try and thread everything as well together as they can, but they don't. It doesn't work. And that sucks. I don't like saying that. And especially when it's this deep here. You cannot really course correct that much once you've gotten to this kind of point, especially when it's like almost over. And when you're pretty much touting Season 7 has 16 episodes, and then Season 8's supposed to have 10? So, give me overview. 10. Pretty much do it to the story that you kind of need, but that's the key. It's what the story needs. There's all these stories going on, and they don't know what they want to focus on. It's almost like all's important, and then sometimes they just cherry pick certain kind of things and they're like, yeah, let's kind of go with this. And most of the things are pretty good, of like pretty good acting. Content's like, okay, what the fuck? Costuming, shots, though transitions sometimes are like, what the fuck? The opening got a little bit... The openings for this show really go off in quality of like, okay, like sometimes I'm like, alright, yeah, no. Since I'm into anime, normally they do interesting kind of things for the opening and the ending part. So I'm not one who's completely adverse to seeing what the openings sometimes do to give us an idea of what's going on in a show, which Outlander does. But trying to get through the singing, especially in these later seasons, it's like, oh my god. And then they switch it up. Since I'm doing it like on DVR on demand kind of shit, I kind of try and learn where I need to fast forward through for certain kind of things. Sometimes this show's like, you know what? Here's a recap. Here's the actual episode. Then here's the introduction. And it's a fucking coin flip to see what episode fucking does that on. It's annoying because you're going through and it's like, okay, you could potentially miss something if you're not figuring out what the fuck's kind of going on. And that's the thing. If you're gonna set what your kind of standard is, set a certain kind of practice, you're gonna do an opening. Just do it in the front, then get into the show. It's not effective to be, here's the show, oh, now here's the opening. I understand that you took time to make that opening. Just do the opening then. Don't play fuckity-doo-dah fuckity-day and be like, here's the opening one episode. Here's the episode beginning, and then it. Because then you're going, alright, how long do I gotta wait to fucking fast forward through this shit? That is a weird kind of quibble criticism that's probably unique to me or anybody watching it on like Blu-ray or streaming or whatnot. So I get that. I'm not trying to completely and utterly harp on the point, but it's a weird kind of thing to do. Why do it? Like, Game of Thrones, they put a fuck ton of time into those things, which was awesome because you could figure out where you're going and what your stories are going to be for the episode. And you get that as it's kind of finishing out the Outlander kind of usual intro, as you get people fucking around and kind of doing shit. Let us have that. But don't just go, I'm going to change up whatever the fuck I want, whenever the fuck I want to do it. It's like, alright, just understand that you're going to lose people for that. So, the weakest aspects are pretty much threading everything together and certain kind of characters and world building of what's kind of going on. Roger and Brianna are vastly pretty much put to the wayside. Almost follow, Fergus kind of follows that, but got a little bit more meat to his story at least. And I almost want to be like, you know what? Stop the historical kind of stuff as being the completely overarching kind of thing and do Fraser's Ridge and then bring this stuff in to affect that. Now, I'm not saying that the historical aspects aren't important. This is billed as a historical fictional drama. I understand the objective of this. However, it works in reverse and forces our interpersonal and character-driven things to be expedited to such a degree that we don't have time to explain why we don't have time to explain. That's from Destiny. And whenever you have to do that, or have a kind of line that even kind of like comes close to that, please reevaluate what's kind of going on. So, those are my opinions on the season. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.